What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, we're doing a silly season video where we're taking a look at the confirmed and unconfirmed things for silly season at this point, and taking a look at the unanswered questions and rides that have not been announced so far for 2024. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. Let's first begin with all the confirmed entries. In the last month, there's been a lot of major movement that's happened in the silly season. First, about 3 to 4 weeks ago, it was announced that Hailie Deegan will be moving up to the Xfinity Series in 2024 and will drive for AIM Racing on a full-time basis in a multi-year deal. She will drive in the number 15 cars. AIM Racing is likely to expand to a 2-car operation in the 2024 season, and Viva and Airbox are going to sponsor her throughout the 2024 season. During, I believe, the next week, Carson Ospar would announce that he'd be joining Spire Motorsports in 2024, driving the number 77 car in a multi-year deal. The deal had apparently been done for about 2 or 3 weeks, really since the beginning of the year, around the time Gateway happened, but they waited a long time to make it official. Carson Ospar is a high prospect, and I think he will have a pretty good season in 2024. Then about a week or two ago, it was announced that Riley Herbst will be returning to Stewart-Haas Racing in 2024. A lot of people were really shocked by this move. There have been some speculation that he could move up to Rickle Racing in the Cup Series in 2024, and that is certainly still possible. But after picking up his first career Xfinity Series win at Las Vegas Motor Speedway and then going on to finish second this past weekend at Homestead, I don't blame Riley Herbst for making the decision to return to Stewart-Haas Racing. Then during the next week, it will be announced that Jake Garcia would not be returning to McAnally-Hilgeman Racing in 2024. It is unclear where Jake Garcia is going to be heading in the 2024 season. He could head to one of the teams we'll talk about later in this episode, but Jake Garcia right now does not have a ride for 2024. Then last week, it was announced that Corey Heim will be returning to Tricon Garage in 2024. Corey Heim is currently the favorite to win the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Championship at this point. I think he's got a really good opportunity chance to get it done, though there are some drivers who are going to Phoenix who have a good chance as well. He'll have a chance to win his first Truck Series Championship. Then it was announced last Wednesday that Christian Eckes would be returning to McAnally-Hilgeman Racing in 2024. Christian Eckes scored 3 wins in the Truck Series this year, had a breakout year, and has a really good chance once again to win the championship in 2024. He obviously will not have an opportunity to win it this year, but Christian Eckes is headed back to McAnally-Hilgeman Racing. Then earlier this week on Monday, Tricon Garage would announce that Dean Thompson would be returning to their organization in 2024. Dean Thompson's not had a great year this year, but he's had a lot of bad luck and things have not gone his way so far in the 2024 series season, I should say. So hopefully he can have a better year going into 2024. And then earlier today, it was announced that Jesse Love will be leaving a Toyota stable and will be joining Rich Schultz Racing starting in 2024 in the number 2 car. Now, we'll talk about the drivers currently in the 2 car here in just a little bit, but Jesse Love doesn't really need sponsorship money considering Wheeling is going to be sticking around in 2024, and I do believe that Jesse Love does have a lot of talent, so he's going to have some pretty high expectations. I think he will have a pretty good year, and we'll do in between what Austin Hill's done this year and what Sheldon Creed's done, where I think he might get a win or two in 2024. So those are the confirmed things we've known in the last 2 weeks. What has been unconfirmed? Let's begin with the 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing. Now, throughout the whole entire year, really since the beginning of January, there's been a lot of chatter on who could get this 10 car in 2024. Why has there been a lot of chatter about this? Well, over the course of the last 2 months, it's been speculated that Eric Almirola may be retiring at the end of the year, or he might not even be returning to Stewart-Haas Racing in 2024. In recent weeks, there's been some chatter that Eric Almirola could return to the NASCAR Xfinity Series, maybe go over to Joe Gibbs Racing, or maybe he become a driver coach for Ford and might run on a part-time basis in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2024. So if Eric Almirola does not return to the 10 car in 2024, who is going to take his seat? Enter Noah Gragson. Noah Gragson, according to Bob Pockus earlier today, has stated that Noah Gragson is the favorite currently to take over the 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing in 2024. Noah Gragson, of course, got reinstated and does have a little bit of sponsorship funding with him. As Black Rifle Coffee, I believe, despite what happened a couple months ago, they believe they are still associated with Noah Gragson. Noah Gragson, a lot of people are going to say it's a bad move if they put him in the 10 car because, to be fair, Noah Gragson has definitely struggled in the Cup Series in the first year he ran. He only had scored 2 top 20 finishes the whole entire season. He was in the 21 or 22 races he drove the 42 car. Carson Hocevar has already scored 4 or 5 top 20s in only 7 or 8 starts. So Carson Hocevar has already had a better year in Cup than Noah Gragson had. One thing for Noah Gragson I'm also worried about if he does go to Stewart-Haas Racing in 2024 is the environment situation. That could be a huge worry for him going into the 2024 season. But it does sound like there's a really good chance and possibility that he's headed over to Stewart-Haas Racing in the 2024 year. It's a major story to keep your eyes on. Next, let's talk about the 16 car for Kaulig Racing. AJ Allmendinger does want to return to the NASCAR Cup Series in 2024. However, over the course of the last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of chatter circulating that AJ Allmendinger, despite wanting to return after picking up the win to Charlotte Roval about 2 weeks ago, that AJ will likely be returning to the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2024. The big reason? Sponsorship and funding. AJ Allmendinger, compared to the driver we'll talk about in a second, does not bring a lot of sponsorship and funding to the table. And I think AJ will do a lot better in the NASCAR Xfinity Series than he's done in the Cup Series, though I will say he's done a pretty good job in the Cup Series. So who's going to take this 16th seat? Enter Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon is currently the favorite to be taking over 16 car for Kaulig Racing in 2024. Now, why could he be headed there? Well, it comes down to sponsorship and funding. We already know that he's not going to be returning to Spire Motorsports in 2024 as Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar are headed there next year. Ty Dillon does have some sponsorship funding from companies like Ferris Mowers, so it would be an easy move for them to pick up Ty Dillon going into next year. It sounds like there's a really good chance of possibility of this happening. Again, would not choose Ty Dillon. He would not even be my first choice to take over to 16 car, but it sounds like Ty Dillon may in fact have a really good opportunity and a fantastic chance to head over to Kaulig Racing in 2024. I don't think he's going to do much, Joe, if he heads over to Kaulig Racing. Finally, for the Cup Series, let's talk about the 15 car for Rick Ware Racing. Now, it was confirmed, I think, in Bob Pox's tweet recently that Justin Ely is going to drive the 51 car in 2024 of Rick Ware. But the 15 car is still available. So what's happened to the 15 car? It sounds like this is going to be driven by a multitude of different drivers next season. There are some drivers who are in the runnings. You have Cole Custer, who I think will get an opportunity to drive. You have Riley Herbst, who might drive his car part-time. I'll even throw Haley Deegan's name into conversation, maybe 1 or 2 Cup Series starts next year. And J.J. Ely and Ryan Neiman, I think, are also candidates maybe to drive this 15 car on a part-time basis next year. Again, I think they would love to have someone full-time in the ride like a Cole Custer or Riley Herbst because they do have sponsorship and funding. But I think if they were going to go full-time with the driver, it would be with Riley Herbst because he does have some funding and sponsorship. But, of course, we all know Riley Herbst is returning to Stewart-Haas Racing. But it sounds like this will be driven by rotation of different drivers. Now let's move on to the NASCAR Xfinity Series. First, let's talk about Joe Gibbs Racing's Xfinity program. We already know that John Nemechek is moving up to the Cup Series to drive for Legacy Motor Club in the number 42 car next year, and Sammy Smith is going over to Junior Motorsports in 2024. So that leaves a few rides open. So who are going to get the seats full-time in 2024? It sounds like that Chandler Smith and Sheldon Creed are the 2 front leading candidates to take over the 2 Joe Gibbs Racing Xfinity Series cars in 2024. We already know that Chandler Smith is not returning to Kaulig Racing in 2024, as Joe Gibbs Racing is expected to buy out the remainder of the contract from the current contract he had with Kaulig Racing, which is a 3-year deal. He will have those 2 years bought out with Joe Gibbs Racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And Chandler Smith, according to a report that Matt Weaver had put out earlier this week and are back on Friday, it stated that Chandler Smith will be the first in line as a substitution driver if that would come into play if a driver like Denny Hamlin or Bubba Wallace along those lines would have some issues. And then you have Sheldon Creed. Sheldon Creed, we already know, will not be returning to Rich Schultz Racing in the 2024 season. And Sheldon Creed, while yes, he struggled with Rich Schultz Racing at times this year, he does have a little bit of funding and a little bit of sponsorship as well. So I think this would be a solid move for the team, and I think he would do a pretty good job with their program in 2024. But expectations are going to be through the roof for Sheldon Creed if he does, in fact, go there. And then you have Ryan Truex as well, who's in the conversations. It sounds like Ryan Truex wants to go full-time with Joe Gibbs Racing next year, but he might only have to settle for being part-time because sponsorship and funding. We already know that Martin Truex Jr. is coming back, and Ryan Truex for sure will be part-time, but Joe Gibbs could be making some pretty big moves. They're going to have that All-Star car for sure next year. Williams Sawash is going to make a few starts, and other drivers could have an opportunity as well to drive for this team. Next, let's talk about Kaulig's NASCAR Xfinity Series team. This one's very interesting because all three Kaulig cars are currently available for 2024. We already know that Daniel Hemrick is moving on to the 31 car full-time in the Cup Series next year, and Chandler Smith is now returned to Kaulig in 2024. So this opens up a can of worms. It is expected, like I mentioned earlier, that AJ Allmendinger is going to return to the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2024. But what other drivers could be candidates for the Kaulig Racing entries? The first one to think about is Matt DiBenedetto. Matt DiBenedetto has not announced his plans for 2024. He would need a little sponsorship funding if he wanted to go ride with this team next year. But I believe Matt DiBenedetto, if he drove for Kaulig Racing in 2024, I think he would be extremely competitive next season. And I think he would have a really good chance and opportunity to compete for wins and maybe an outside championship threat if he was to go to Kaulig Racing. Next, let's talk about Lane Riggs. Lane Riggs is driven for Kaulig Racing on a part-time basis in 2023, and of course has connections with Kevin Harvick Incorporated. He's had Xfinity as a sponsor in the few races that he's ran, so that would be an easy way for him to get into it. I think Lane Riggs would be a really good candidate. You also have Derek Kraus. Derek Kraus, apparently, according to Garage Rumors, could be going full-time in Xfinity next year in 2024, and it could be with Kaulig Racing. Derek Kraus does have a little funding and sponsorship, and I think Derek has done a solid job with Kaulig this year. You have other drivers like Parker Retzlaff and Jeffrey Earnhardt who could also drive for this team. Jeffrey has not announced plans for 2024. He'd be not a bad choice. Also throws Shane Van Gisbergen in the conversations right now because Shane Van Gisbergen, in my opinion, has done a solid job in the few races he ran in the NASCAR Cup Series, and he's going to run in the Xfinity Series a lot next year. I think it could potentially be with Kaulig Racing. Next, let's talk about RSS Racing's Xfinity program. There's only one thing I want to talk about. We already know that Ryan Sieg is returned to RSS Racing in 2024. Frankie Muniz. Frankie Muniz is heavily rumored currently at the moment to be moving up to the NASCAR Xfinity Series next year in 2024 and drive for RSS Racing. They have not announced that currently at the moment, but many speculate this is going to happen. Now, while I don't know if Frankie Muniz is ready to make the jump up to the NASCAR Xfinity Series at this point. I think Frankie would not be a bad choice to put into their NASCAR Xfinity Series team. I think it's certainly possible. I think there's a good chance that it could end up happening, and this is a big story to keep an eye on, that Frankie Muniz could be headed to RSS in 2024. Next, let's move on to the Truck Series and talk about Spire Motorsports. Now, we already know that Spire Motorsports has purchased KBM. That was done before the Bristol weekend had taken place. There are some drivers who are in the running because we all know that, of course, they are going to run 3 trucks in 2024. So who's going to drive for their team? Well, there are a few drivers who are in the rumbling for this. You have Chase Purdy. Chase Purdy does have funding and sponsorship, and he had a contract extension with KBM before this merger had ended up happening. So I think there's a good chance that Chase Purdy could go full-time with this team. Marco Andretti wants to run more races in 2024, and I think he would love to go full-time in the future. There is a chance that that could end up happening. Kyle Busch, we know, is going to run 5 races with this team in 2024. And I think Roger Kroof also could be in the running. I also mentioned Jake Garcia and Matt DiBenedetto's drivers who could be in the running for Aspire Motorsports entry in 2024. But this team has not announced their plans for 2024 at this point. We already know that purchase KBM, at least the truck side, though, has not announced what they're going to do. And finally, let's talk about Front Row Motorsports Truck Series program. We already know Zane Smith is moving up to the Cup Series to drive for Spire with Trackhouse Alliance. Who takes the 38th seat next year? There's 2 names that come up to mind. Brett Moffitt, Frankie Muniz. I think Brett Moffitt's the front runner. Brett Moffitt has not announced his plans for 2024 at this moment, and some have speculated he could go to the 38 truck, for Front Row in 2024. Brett Moffitt, if he does go to this team, he did drive for them a couple weekends ago in a 34 truck and actually won a Talladega, and I think it's an audition for next year. It sounds like he may not, in fact, return to AM Racing in 2024, and this could be the seat for him. I think there's a good chance he's headed over to Front Row in 2024. So those are some of the answered and unanswered questions for silly season for 2023 through 2024. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links go below that, and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. What are your thoughts about some of these unanswered questions? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow on the channel, we're going to have a NASCAR news. We're discussing news throughout the whole entire week. Then on Saturday, we'll have the NASCAR Xfinity Series race through from Martinsville. And then, of course, on Sunday, we'll have the NASCAR Cup Series race through from Martinsville. And then on Monday, there's going to be a lot of content dropping as championship week begins. It's an exciting time. We've got a lot of content dropping over the last few months as we get you guys set up in closer to November. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.